Here's one of the good things about just taking a deep dive in the Bible and studying. I am in love, absolutely in love with studying the prophets. And the reason why is because when I learned that you take these prophets and you put these books over with First and Second Samuel, First and Second Kings, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, the understanding, and Chronicles. Let me not leave out the Chronicles. But when we take those prophets and properly place them during the times of Samuel and Kings and Chronicles and Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther, wow, your understanding opens up. And let me just share this. I've done a series on this, but I just feel like I could do more and more series on this. But it is so amazing because it ties everything together. What we see happening, what these prophets are doing, these constant warnings that they are giving to the people of God goes back to not only Genesis chapter 12 with the promise of Abraham, but it goes back to Deuteronomy, where God instructs them of this covenant, this conditional covenant, where he tells them if they are faithful and that they do not become like the nations around them, he will fulfill his promise to them. However, if they fail to obey him and begin to worship other gods and become like the people around them, who they were supposed to be light to, who they were supposed to be an example to, God says, I'm going to allow these people to come in and take over you. I'm going to allow them to rule you. They are going not totally annihilate you, but they're going to give you trouble. I'm going to permit them to do so if you disobey me. And what's interesting as I'm studying this is this was happening then, and this happens now throughout history. God has used people who loved him, people who followed him, as well as the hearts of the wicked. And so, not to make this political, but I need you to look at what we see currently in our world, that God can use whoever he wants to. See, Israel was God's chosen people, and there were people who did not worship the God of Israel, but God still had a purpose for those people, those kings, when they were coming and causing havoc in the life of God's chosen people, they were fulfilling the purpose that God had for them. Now, did they have to pay? Yes, they did. But nonetheless, we've got to stop thinking that because a person does not follow God, because a person does not believe. See, these kings, these wicked kings in the Bible that we read about, they exposed the wickedness of the people who profess to be God's people. Yeah. See, we want to point our finger at who's wicked and who's not a Christian and who's not this and who's not that. But when God allows a king to come in and to discipline his folk, it is because his folk have disobeyed him, and God has taken his hands off to let their enemy come in and teach them a lesson. So when you look at what all that is going on around, instead of just pointing your finger at somebody else, you need to be asking yourself, how did we allow ourselves to get in this position that God has had to punish us by using someone who may not even believe in him? We've got to look at ourselves first. Go and study. I just want to encourage you. Go and study these prophets, all of them, because there were prophets who talked to God's people before. They were warning them before. their disobedience happened, before they were ever invaded by Assyria and Babylon and Persia, they were warned. And even when they ended up going into exile, God still gave them people who not only prophesied their judgment, but they prophesied their hope. And then after their time of suffering, God gave them prophets to remind them, hey, remember why you went in there in the first place. Remember who I am. That's what got you in there in the first place. And so he had to constantly give them people to remind them of who he was and what his standard was. And we have that today, but just like then, many people refuse to listen to the prophets when we have been sent to give you warning to turn from the things that are against God. To continue to do so only leads to our own demise. And we can't blame God, and we definitely shouldn't be finger pointing at the person that God has had to use to discipline us. It's all a part of his purpose. It's all a part of his plan. But the obedience begins with us.